Get that truck off the driveway. Right now. Mrs. Karen Whitmore stood at the end of my driveway, holding an HOA violation notice in one hand and pointing at my neighbor's truck with the other. 2 security guards stood behind her, acting like they had been waiting for this moment all morning. My neighbor, Jake Miller, slowly stepped outside. He looked at the truck. Then he looked at Karen. Is there a problem? Karen gave a cold smile. You know exactly what the problem is. Commercial trucks are banned in this community. Jake glanced at the large black pickup parked beside his garage. It had no company logo, no trailer attached, and no equipment hanging from it. So, which part of the rule did I break? Karen's smile disappeared. The truck is clearly used for business. Jake laughed once. Clearly. Yes, she snapped. You drive it to work every morning. That makes it a commercial vehicle. A few neighbors had already stepped outside to watch. Nobody said a word. Karen raised the violation notice. You have 24 hours to remove it, or the HOA will tow it. Jake stared at the paper. Then something strange happened. Instead of arguing, he smiled. Okay. Karen looked almost surprised. Okay. Jake nodded. You want the truck gone? Yes. Fine. He walked toward the truck, opened the driver's door, and reached inside. Karen folded her arms, clearly expecting him to start the engine and drive away. But Jake pulled out a small folder instead. He walked back toward her and handed it over. Karen opened it. Her face changed. There were copies of the HOA rules, property records, and something else that made her stop breathing for a second. Jake leaned closer and quietly said, You should read page 7. Karen looked down. Her eyes moved across the page. Then back up at Jake. What is this? Jake smiled. The rule you just used against me. The neighbors moved closer. Karen's voice dropped. That doesn't change anything. Jake shook his head. Oh, it changes everything. Then he pointed at the truck. You banned commercial trucks from HOA-owned roads and common areas. You never banned them from private driveways. Karen went silent. For the first time that morning, she had no answer. But Jake wasn't finished. He pulled another paper from the folder. This is the survey for my property. Karen looked at it. Then she looked at his driveway. Her face slowly turned pale. Because the driveway she had been threatening to tow his truck from wasn't owned by the HOA. And Jake had known that from the beginning. His next words made every person standing outside go completely quiet. I didn't find a loophole, Karen. I found the line you were never allowed to cross. Karen stared at the property survey as if the paper had suddenly changed in her hands. This has to be wrong, she said. Jake shook his head. It isn't. She looked toward the driveway again. The HOA maintains this road. The road, yes, Jake replied. My driveway. No. One of the neighbors stepped forward. Wait. If that's true, then the HOA can't fine him for parking there, can they? Karen quickly turned toward him. Don't interfere. But another neighbor pulled out her phone. I'm checking the rules right now. Within minutes, more people were reading the HOA documents. The same rule Karen had used against Jake was clear. Commercial vehicles could not be parked on HOA-controlled common property. It said nothing about privately owned driveways. Then Jake revealed the part Karen had not expected. I didn't just read the rules, he said. I checked the county property records too. He opened another document. The HOA has been sending violation notices to several homeowners for the same thing, even though some of those driveways are privately owned. The street went silent. Karen's face tightened. You're accusing the board of something very serious. No, Jake said calmly. I'm showing them what they did. That afternoon, the HOA board held an emergency meeting. Homeowners arrived with copies of their violation notices. One after another, they placed them on the table. The same warning. The same threat. The same demand to remove vehicles from property the HOA didn't control. Then someone asked the question nobody on the board wanted to answer. Who approved these fines? Karen stayed quiet. Another board member finally admitted, Karen handled most of the enforcement. Every head turned toward her. Karen tried to defend herself, claiming she had only been protecting property values. But the board's attorney had already reviewed the documents. His conclusion was simple. The fines had been issued outside the HOA's authority. Some had to be cancelled. Others had to be refunded. And the towing threats had to stop immediately. But Jake had one final surprise. He placed a small USB drive on the table. Karen stared at it. What is that? Security footage, Jake said. The room became completely still. The video showed Karen standing on his driveway days earlier, measuring the distance from his garage to the road and telling a security guard, if he doesn't remove that truck, we'll have it towed. Then the footage showed her stepping past the private property marker. The attorney paused the video. You entered his private property without permission. Karen had no answer. By the end of the meeting, the HOA board voted to cancel Jake's violation, remove the warning from his record, and review every similar case from the previous year. Karen was forced to step down from her enforcement position. The next morning, Jake's truck was still sitting in the exact same driveway. No fine. No tow truck. No warning notice. Just a legal parking spot that had been there all along. As I watched Jake climb into his truck, I asked him why he hadn't simply fought Karen from the beginning. He smiled. Because I knew she wanted me angry. He started the engine and looked back at the HOA sign near the entrance. So I gave her something she couldn't argue with. The truth. And that was the lesson everyone on that street remembered. A rule only has power where the law says it does. After that day, the HOA still had rules. But Karen no longer got to pretend they were hers.